Blood on my hands. Not a little. I'm talking warm, sticky, can't tell if it's mine kind of blood. The air stinks of burnt tires and fear. Sirens bounce off the brick walls. Red and blue lights flickering like a heartbeat that's about to stop. I'm crouched behind a wrecked sedan. Smoke rising from the engine, mag half empty. Hands shaking so bad I can barely load around. Then I hear him, the voice I grew up with. Eli, don't make me do this, man. He's behind the police cruiser, silhouette outlined in the flashing light. Pistol raised, face hidden behind the badge he swore would make him better than the rest of us. Same voice that used to yell my name when we played ball on 103rd. Same voice that dragged me out the night the corner store burned down. Now it's the voice of someone hunting me. Put the gun down, he shouts again. Put it down before what? Arrest me? Kill me? Save me again? I can't tell anymore. I peek over the car hood, his hands are steady. Mine aren't. Next to me lies Noah, my little cousin. 17. Skinny kid with big dreams and dumb courage. There's a hole in his chest, and the chain I gave him last week is stained red. The cop, my brother in everything but blood, is the one who pulled the trigger. They say you never really leave the block, you just age into a different ghost of it. Before the gunfire, before the sirens, before the badge, there were two kids trying to outrun poverty. Southside Crenshaw, summer heat thick enough to choke on. We'd shoot hoops on a cracked court outside a liquor store that doubled as a church on Sundays. Sweat, laughter, cheap sodas, that was our world. He was the dreamer, always talking about college, uniforms, something bigger. I was the realist. I just wanted to survive long enough to figure out what bigger even meant. He said he'd make it out clean. I said I'd make it out rich. We both lied. The first time we got jumped, we were 15. 5 dudes from the Florence side came swinging bottles and knives, screaming about colors neither of us even claimed. I froze. Couldn't move. He didn't. He swung a length of chain like he'd been born with it, cracked one across the mouth, caught another with a brick. By the time the sirens came, 2 of them were on the ground, and he was dragging me through the alley behind the laundromat. We sat behind a dumpster, blood dripping from his knuckles, both breathing like we'd swallowed smoke. He looked at me, eyes calm, voice steady. No one's gonna save us, Eli, he said. So we save ourselves. Those words stayed with me. Years later, they'd echo back. Twisted, poisoned, true. After school, our roads split. He put on a uniform. I put on a mask. He joined the academy, said he wanted to clean the streets. I started running packs for a crew that didn't believe in cleaning anything. At first, it was just deliveries. Quick cash, easy moves. But fast money feels like gravity. You don't notice how deep you're falling until you hit the ground. Soon I had a chain around my neck, a car on credit, and a target on my back. I stopped recording music, stopped showing up to my mom's house. Every night felt like a dice roll. He'd swing by sometimes, no lights, no uniform, just a hoodie over his badge. Still talked like we were brothers. Still called me E. You're better than this, he'd say. You could have been out here with me. I'd laugh and tap my pocket full of cash. Why would I trade stacks for a salary? He'd shake his head. One day, this block gonna collect what it's owed. The debt came due the night Noah got killed. He wasn't supposed to be out there. He was supposed to be in trade school, fixing engines, not running errands for me. But pride is a disease out here. He wanted to prove he could handle what I handled. I gave him a simple run, small drop, 10 minutes. He never made it back. By the time I pulled up, the block was crawling with cops. Flashing lights, yellow tape, neighbors filming through cracked blinds. And there he was, my brother in blue, standing over Noah's body. Gun drawn, smoke still rising from the barrel. Now, back in that alley, I'm gripping Noah's chain so hard it's cutting into my palm. The sirens echo down the street. My brother's eyes lock on mine from behind that cruiser, full of panic and guilt. He shot first, he yells. Eli, you gotta believe me. But all I see is Noah's blood soaking the pavement. All I hear is the promise we made years ago. We save ourselves. I take one step back, then another. The helicopter light floods the street. I run. Gunshots snap behind me. tearing the night apart. I don't know if he's firing at me or protecting me. Doesn't matter. The city's awake now, and I'm the villain in everyone's story. I duck through a side street, vault a fence, land in a yard that smells like garbage and rain. My heart's pounding so loud I can taste it. Every siren sounds closer. Every alley feels like it's watching me. I collapse behind a row of trash bins. There's a hum in the air, that low electric buzz before the chaos really starts. My phone vibrates. Unknown number. I answer. Silence. Then a whisper, low, fast, nervous. They're coming for you. It's not just the cops. Get off the street. Click. Gone. My fingers are shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone. That voice, I knew it. Couldn't place it, but it wasn't random. Somebody close. Somebody who wanted to warn me or watch me panic. By the time I made it to Jalen's old repair shop on 110th, the block was already buzzing. Headlines on phones. Rumors in the air. They said the cop, my brother, had been dirty for months. That he'd been running product with me, splitting cash under the table. Now the task force was coming for both of us. Only problem? None of that was true. The setup was clean, professional. Someone was pulling strings from above. Someone who knew both sides of the story. Inside the shop, the lights were low. The air smelled like oil and cigarette ash. Jalen was sitting behind the counter, boots up, cleaning a pistol. "You look like hell," he said. "Heard you got ghosts on your back tonight." I threw the gun on his desk. "Noah's dead, and the one who shot him's wearing a badge." He nodded slowly, almost like he expected it. "Word is, your boy didn't have a choice. Orders came from higher up. Something about cleaning the block." "Cleaning?" I repeated. "That what they call murder now?" He shrugged. "Depends who writes the report." That night I didn't sleep. Every blink was a replay. Noah falling, the look in my brother's eyes, the sirens closing in. The block outside was restless. Helicopters overhead. Radios crackling in the distance. Somewhere out there, he was probably trying to make sense of it too. But he still had a badge. I had nothing but ghosts and guilt. I pulled Noah's chain from my pocket. Silver, heavy, still warm from his skin. I squeezed it until my hands ached. "I'll find out who did this," I whispered, "and I'll make them answer for it." But first, I had to go back, to the one place I swore I'd never step again. The court where we grew up. Morning. The sun crawled over the rooftops, turning the smog into gold dust. I threw on a hoodie, faded jeans, scuffed sneakers. Didn't want to stand out. Didn't want to disappear either. The neighborhood felt different. Tighter. Angrier. Mothers dragging kids off the sidewalks. Dudes on corners whispering instead of talking. Every car that rolled slow looked like a setup. Every knock on a door sounded like the end. When I reached the court, I froze. The paint was cracked, the rim bent, but the ghosts were still hooping. I could almost see us there. Two kids laughing like they had forever. Then I spotted her. Maya, my brother's sister. She was sitting on the bleachers, face buried in her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were red. "Amy." Her voice broke like glass. "I saw the news. They said you killed that boy. They said my brother tried to stop you." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "They're lying. He shot Noah. I saw it." She shook her head slowly. "No." He said Noah fired first. The space between us was full of ghosts. Two people who once shared birthdays and cookouts, now standing on opposite sides of a war neither started. I sat beside her. The breeze carried the sound of sirens somewhere far away, background music for every life we'd ever known. "Someone's playing both of us," I said. "This wasn't supposed to happen. Somebody wanted blood." Maya wiped her tears. "You think my brother's in on it?" I paused. "No. I think he's trapped, same as me." She looked away. "Then you both running out of time." That night, I found shelter in the old church on Hillcrest, the one that used to hand out soup and salvation before the city forgot it existed. Now it was just shadows, dust, and broken pews. I lit a cigarette and watched the smoke twist through the moonlight slicing through shattered glass. For the first time in years, I whispered a prayer. Not for forgiveness, that ship sailed long ago, but for strength to make it through whatever came next. Footsteps echoed behind me. Slow, careful. I turned, gun half raised. There he was, my brother, badge on his belt, pain in his eyes. He looked older, tired, like the weight of the world had been riding his back too. "We need to talk," he said quietly. I nodded. "Yeah, we do." But before another word, the stained glass behind him shattered. A burst of muzzle flash lit up the night. Gunfire ripped through the pews, wood splintering like thunder. He dove forward, dragging me down behind the altar. Bullets screamed overhead, ricocheting off stone. "They found us," he shouted. And just like that, the church turned into a war zone. Two brothers hiding behind holy ruins, hunted by devils neither of us could see. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw blood. The smell of gunpowder still clung to my hoodie, and the sound of that last gunshot echoed like it hadn't finished ringing out. My hands kept trembling, even though I tried to convince myself it was just the adrenaline. But deep down, I knew what it really was: guilt creeping in. The next morning, the block looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. Kids were still out running around, old heads on the corner still arguing about the Lakers, the same stray dog nosing through trash bags. But for me, everything looked different, like the color had drained out of it. Every noise felt louder, every glance heavier. When I stepped out onto the porch, my neighbor's mom gave me that look, that knowing look, like she'd seen this movie before and knew how it ended. I nodded at her, pretending I was good, pretending I wasn't one bad thought away from breaking down right there on the steps. I walked to the store to clear my head. The sun was barely up, the air thick with the smell of fried dough and exhaust fumes. On the way, I saw the murals, faces of the ones who didn't make it. Every block had one. Fresh paint, old names. People said they were about remembrance, but to me, they were warnings. Inside the store, I kept my hoodie up, head down. The guy behind the counter eyed me like he knew something was off. He was one of those dudes who always hears everything before it hits the streets. When I handed him a 20, he said, "You heard what happened last night?" My heart froze. "Nah," I said, keeping my voice flat. He shook his head slowly, like he already knew I was lying. "Word is, someone got dropped near the canal. Cops all over it. Folks say it was connected to that money that went missing last week." I didn't say a word, just grabbed my change and left. But my ears were burning the whole way back. Back at the house, my phone buzzed. It was from my boy, the one who'd been with me last night. "We need to talk," the text said. No emojis, no nothing, just that. We met in the alley behind the auto shop, away from cameras and ears. He looked jumpy, eyes darting everywhere, hoodie half-zipped like he was ready to run. "You hear the news?" he asked. "Yeah." He ran a hand over his face. "They found the body, and the cash is gone. Somebody talking, bro. I can feel it." I didn't answer right away. I was too busy thinking about the chain in my pocket, the one that didn't belong to me. He looked at me hard. "You sure you ain't say nothing?" That hit a nerve. "You really asking me that?" He backed off a little, but I could see it in his eyes. Doubt, fear. That's the poison that kills loyalty faster than bullets ever could. We stood there in silence for a minute, both of us thinking the same thing. If someone was talking, we had two options: disappear or clean it up. By nightfall, the whole neighborhood was buzzing. Cops rolled slow down the block, headlights sweeping across faces that pretended not to care. People whispered behind closed doors. Somebody had seen something. We holed up in the garage behind my cousin's place, a spot we used when things got hot. It smelled like oil and rust, walls lined with old tires and half-broken tools. He paced back and forth, muttering to himself, checking his phone every few seconds. "I told you that job was bad luck," he said. "We should have waited." I snapped. "Waited for what? For them to take it first? You wanted out, remember? You said this was the last run." He stopped pacing, looked at me. "Yeah, but I didn't think we'd end up with a body." The air went still. I could hear my own heartbeat. "Bodies happen," I said finally. "We knew the risk." He laughed, cold, bitter. "Yeah, But it wasn't supposed to be him. That's when it hit me. He wasn't scared of the cops. He was scared of who we'd crossed. The man who got hit wasn't just some rival, he was connected. Deep. We both knew what that meant. Retaliation wasn't a question of if. It was when. We left the garage before dawn. The sky was gray, the air heavy like it was waiting for rain. I kept my head low, hood up, eyes scanning every corner. Every parked car looked like a trap. Every shadow felt like someone watching. When I got back to the house, the front door was cracked open. My stomach dropped. Inside, drawers were pulled out, couch cushions on the floor. Someone had been looking for something. I went straight to my room. The stash spot was empty. And just like that, I knew what this was. Not the cops. Not random. Someone close. My phone buzzed again, same number. We need to meet. Now. The message came with a location, the old basketball court by the projects. The place where we used to spend summers before life got complicated. When I got there, the court was empty. The chain link fence rattled in the wind. A soda can rolled across the asphalt. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw him, the same boy I grew up with, the one who had my back through everything. But now his hand was tucked inside his jacket, and his eyes weren't the same. "You been holding out," he said. I shook my head. "You trippin'. You know me." He took a step closer. "Don't lie to me, man. I know about the cash. You think I wouldn't find out?" I felt my pulse jump. "You said you didn't want no part of it, so I kept it safe." He smirked. "Safe? You think anything's safe out here? They already looking for us, and you're out here stashing their money? You trying to get us both killed?" The tension was thick enough to choke on. The court felt smaller, like the fence was closing in around us. "You came here to handle it, huh?" I said quietly. He didn't answer, but I could see the weight in his eyes. Loyalty or survival. That was the choice. I took a slow step back. "Whatever you think I did, it ain't like that. But if you pull that trigger, you better not miss." He froze. His hand trembled just a little. Then he turned and walked away. I stood there under the flickering streetlight, heart pounding, wondering if that was the last time I'd ever see him. By the next morning, the block was silent. Too silent. Word spread fast. Someone had been picked up. Not by the cops. By the people we'd stolen from. I packed a bag, threw on a hoodie, and slipped out before the sun came up. No goodbye, no note, no plan. Just gone. But you can't outrun the streets. They always find a way to follow you. Even when you think you've escaped, they're right there in your rearview mirror, waiting for you to look back. I kept driving until the gas light came on. Didn't matter where I was going, as long as it was away from there. The city turned to suburbs, the suburbs turned to nothing. Just long stretches of cracked highway and silence. I pulled into a rundown motel off the interstate, the kind of place where nobody asked questions as long as you paid in cash. The room smelled like cigarettes and bleach, the kind of smell that clung to you. I threw my bag on the bed, sat down, and stared at the floor. My hands still shook when I tried to light a cigarette. The lighter clicked over and over before the flame caught. I inhaled until my lungs burned, trying to drown out the noise in my head. The gunshots, the shouting, the way he looked at me that night before he walked away. Days blurred together. I stayed off my phone, used burner numbers to call no one. I thought maybe I could disappear, just fade out. But peace never lasts long for people like me. It started with a call I wasn't supposed to get. I didn't even realize the phone had signal. The screen lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something in my gut made me swipe. A voice I hadn't heard in years. "You out there running ghosts now?" I froze. "Who's this?" "You know who. I wouldn't be calling if it wasn't serious." It was her. The only person who ever made me think I could be more than this. She was still back in the neighborhood, still trying to hold things together for her little brother. The same kid who used to chase us around with a basketball too big for his hands. "I don't know how you got this number," I said. "But you need to hang up." "I can't." Her voice cracked. "They came to my house." Everything inside me went cold. "Who?" "You know who. They said they were looking for you. Said if I didn't tell them where you went, they'd make sure I never forgot their faces." I gripped the phone tighter, knuckles turning white. Did they touch you?
No.
But they took him. I didn't need her to say who. The line went silent for a moment. I could hear her breathing, shaky, uneven. They said you stole from them. Said you took something that wasn't yours. Please, just make it right before they... The call cut out. I stared at the screen until it went black. For the first time in weeks, I felt something real. Not guilt, not fear. Rage. Cold and clean. I packed up what little I had, grabbed the duffel from under the bed, and hit the road.
No GPS.
No map, just instinct. The highway stretched out like a scar, and the closer I got to home, the heavier the air felt. By the time I reached the city, night had fallen. Streetlights buzzed overhead, half of them dead. The blocks looked the same but different, like someone had taken a piece out of every memory and left the rest to rot. I parked 3 streets over from her place, engine off, watching from the shadows. There were 2 black SUVs parked out front. Tinted windows. Nobody from around here drove those unless they meant trouble. I slipped through the back alley, keeping low, moving slow. The air smelled like rain and gun oil. I checked the window. She was inside, pacing, alone. When I tapped the glass, she flinched. But when she saw me, she froze, then ran to open the door. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. I didn't have a choice. Her eyes were red. They said if you didn't come back, they'd kill him. They're serious. I looked past her into the small living room. Everything was torn apart. Pictures off the walls, drawers dumped, couch cushions slashed. "They came looking for the money," I said quietly. She nodded. "They think you still have it."
Ido.
She stared at me like she couldn't believe I said that out loud. "Then give it back. It's not that simple. You don't get to just hand it over and walk away." "Then what are you gonna do?" I looked at her, then down at the photo lying face down on the floor. It was the 3 of us, me, her, and her little brother, back when life still had color. "I'm gonna end it." She tried to stop me, but I was already gone. I knew where they'd be. The warehouse near the docks. Same spot we used to meet before jobs. It was neutral ground once, but now it belonged to them. Rain started falling halfway there, the kind that hits hard and cold, soaking through everything. I pulled the hood tighter and checked the gun. Full clip. Not much else to say. The place was quiet when I arrived. Too quiet. A single light flickered inside, spilling out through the gaps in the metal siding. I crouched behind a stack of crates, peering through the cracks. 2 of them by the entrance, 1 more by the door, smoking. They weren't expecting anyone stupid enough to walk into the lion's den. I wasn't planning on walking out either. I moved quick, low, silent. The first one didn't even see me coming. 1 crack across the jaw with the pistol, down he went. The second reached for his piece, but I had him before he cleared the holster. The sound of bone meeting concrete echoed like thunder in my ears. I slipped through the side door. Inside, it smelled like oil, metal, and old blood. And then I saw him, tied to a chair in the middle of the floor, head slumped forward. Her little brother. He looked small, too small for all this. His lip was busted, 1 eye swollen shut. I crept closer. "Hey," I whispered. "You hear me?" He stirred, groaning. "They said you wouldn't come." "Well," I said, untying the ropes. "They don't know me too well." But before I could finish, a voice echoed from the shadows. "Maybe I do." I turned and my stomach dropped. It was him, the same man who walked away from me on that court. My brother in everything but blood. He stepped out from the dark, gun already raised. "You think you can steal from me and just vanish?" "From you," I said. "You working with them now?" He laughed. "Working? Nah, I'm running it. You think those guys had the brains to pull off what we did? You walked out with the bag, but I made the deal." My chest tightened. "You sold us out." He shrugged. "I did what I had to. I'm done scraping for scraps. I'm building something real. By hurting her? By taking him?" He tilted his head. "Collateral. You made this personal when you ran off with my money." I felt the words hit harder than the rain. "My money," that's what he said. like none of it ever meant anything else. "You gonna shoot me too?" I asked. He smiled. "If I have to." I moved slow, eyes locked on his. "You remember what we used to say? We all we got. You really forgot that?" He hesitated, just for a second. But that second was all I needed. I dropped low, grabbed the chair, and swung it at him. The gun went off loud, blinding flash. Pain tore through my shoulder, but I didn't stop. I charged, slammed him into the wall, fought for the gun. He was strong, desperate. We crashed into a table, metal clanging, bullets scattering across the floor. Rainwater leaked through the ceiling, mixing with blood. He got one hand free and hit me across the jaw. Stars exploded behind my eyes. I grabbed him by the hoodie, pulled him close. "You don't get to decide how this ends," I growled. He spat blood. "Neither do you." The gun went off again, but not the one in his hand. He stumbled back, looking down at the hole in his chest, confusion spreading across his face. Behind him, the kid, her brother, stood shaking, holding the pistol I dropped. His hands were trembling so bad I thought he'd fall. He looked at me, eyes wide, terrified. "He was gonna kill you." The man fell to his knees, choking on blood, eyes never leaving mine. "You should have stayed gone." Then he was still. The sound of rain filled the room again. The kid dropped the gun, hands covered in red. I went to him, pulled him close. He was shaking, whispering, "I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to." "I know," I said. "It's over." But it wasn't. Not really. I left him with her that night. Didn't say goodbye, didn't explain. Just left the bag. All of it on the kitchen table. Enough to buy them a way out. As for me, I drove until I saw the sun break through the clouds, bleeding orange across the horizon. My shoulder burned. My hands still smelled like smoke, and I couldn't tell if the shaking was from pain or everything I'd lost. Somewhere out there, a new name waited for me, a new story, but I knew I'd never outrun this one. Because once the streets take something from you, they don't just let go, they follow. In reflections, in dreams, in every sound that reminds you of the night everything changed. And sometimes, when it's too quiet, I swear I still hear his voice behind me, laughing like it never ended. The sky looked different that morning. It wasn't the color of freedom, more like the color of exhaustion. Pale gray, washed out, the kind that makes the world feel empty no matter where you go. I've been driving for hours, maybe days. The roads all looked the same. Gas stations, dinners that never closed, faces that didn't care. I thought maybe that was a good thing, being no one in a world that forgot your name. I pulled into a small town somewhere past the state line. One of those places that time forgot. Cracked sidewalks, old pickup trucks, a diner with a neon sign that buzzed louder than the crickets. I parked out back, changed my shirt, and slipped the pistol under the seat. The wound on my shoulder still hurt like hell, but the bleeding had stopped. I'd wrapped it with an old shirt from the duffel bag, and every time I moved, I felt it reopen a little. Inside the diner, the smell of coffee and grease hit me like a memory. I sat at the counter, head down, eyes on the reflection in the chrome napkin holder. A waitress walked over, mid-40s, tired eyes, voice soft. "Rough night. Long week," I said. She poured me a cup without asking. "Ain't we all?" I drank slow, letting the heat burn its way through me. For a second, I almost felt normal. Just another guy with nowhere to be. But normal don't last when your whole life's been written in red. When I went to pay, she smiled like she'd seen too many ghosts to judge. "You passing through?" "Trying to," I said. "Careful which road you take. Some of them circle right back around." Her words sat heavy in my chest. I nodded, left a 20, and walked out. I found a cheap room above the mechanic shop. One bed, one window, no questions. The kind of place where lost people go to stay invisible. I slept for the first time in days, but even then, peace didn't come easy. Dreams came instead. Flashes of the alley, the gun going off, blood mixing with rain. His face not angry, not scared, just disappointed. When I woke, the world felt quiet again. Too quiet. I turned on the TV for noise. Local news, nothing about me. But then, just before the anchor switched stories, I heard a name that froze me cold. The woman I left behind. They said there'd been a shooting outside her building. 2 men dead, 1 wounded. Police said it looked like retaliation. She wasn't killed, but she was hit. Critical condition. My chest felt like it collapsed. I threw what I had into the duffel, ran to the car, and didn't stop driving. I didn't care about cops, about whoever was left hunting me. All I saw was her face that night, begging me not to go. When I reached the hospital, I parked 2 blocks away. The place was crawling with uniforms. I slipped through a side entrance, hood up, head down, moving like a shadow. The smell of disinfectant and metal filled my nose. My heart pounded so loud I thought it might give me away. She was in room 214. I could see her through the glass. Pale, tubes in her arm, machines beeping slow. I wanted to go in, to tell her I was sorry, but there were 2 cops posted outside. So I just stood there, hidden in the dim hallway, watching. A nurse brushed past me, muttering something about visitors' hours. I waited until she turned the corner. Then I slipped inside. She didn't open her eyes, but her hand moved when I touched it. I sat down beside her, holding that hand like it was the last piece of the world keeping me human. "I should have never left," I whispered. "I thought I was protecting you, but I just brought more pain." Her eyes flickered open, barely. "You shouldn't be here. I had to see you." She smiled weakly. "You always come back." "Yeah," I said. "Always too late." Her grip tightened. "You can still fix this. Don't let them win." I wanted to tell her it was too late, that there was nothing left to fix, but her eyes, they still believed in me, even after everything. When I left the room, I saw one of the cops glance my way. He didn't recognize me at first, but his eyes lingered too long. I knew what was coming. I walked straight out of the hospital, heart pounding, mind already spinning. I couldn't let her or her brother pay for what I'd done. The people behind this, the ones who really pulled the strings, they were still out there. My old crew wasn't just running small jobs anymore. They'd turned into something bigger. Pipeline. Drugs, guns, money, all moving through the same channels we built years ago. And I was the only loose end left. If I ran, they'd find her again. If I stayed quiet, more people would die. So I made a choice, maybe the first real choice of my life. I was going to end it once and for all. Took me 3 days to find the address. An old warehouse near the freeway, dressed up like a logistics company. I scouted from a hill behind the tracks, saw guards, cameras, trucks coming and going. The same pattern over and over. I didn't have backup, didn't have a plan, just rage and clarity. That night, I broke in through the side gate. The rain had started again, soft at first, then harder, until it sounded like gunfire on the metal roof. I slipped through the shadows, pistol drawn, every breath measured. Inside, voices echoed, laughter, music, men counting money under fluorescent light. I waited until one stepped away from the table, then moved. Silent, precise. The first went down before he knew I was there. The second reached for his radio. I cut that short. When the alarm finally tripped, I was already halfway up the stairs. At the top, behind a glass office wall, sat the man I came for. Suit, gold chain, cigar smoke curling in the air. He looked too comfortable, too confident, the kind of man who thought fear was something other people felt. "You really should have stayed gone," he said when I stepped inside. "Yeah," I said. "So should you." He laughed. "You think you can walk in here and fix what you broke?" I raised the gun. "I'm not here to fix it. I'm here to end it." He leaned back, smiling. "Then do it. But it won't change a damn thing. You kill me, 10 more take my place. That's how this works." He wasn't wrong. The system didn't care who sat in the chair. There was always someone waiting. But I wasn't doing it for the system. I pulled the trigger. The shot shattered the glass, sent him sprawling across the desk. For a second, I thought it was over. Then the sirens started, not cops, but his men. The whole place erupted. I ran through smoke and shouting, bullets tearing through walls. My shoulders screamed with every step. I kicked open the side door, rain slapping my face, sprinting for the back gate. A flash, pain in my leg. I hit the ground hard, rolling behind a dumpster. Blood pooled under my jeans. I fired back blindly, hitting one, maybe two. More coming. I could hear them yelling my name, like ghosts calling me home. I crawled toward the fence, dragging myself through mud and glass. Every breath burned. When I reached the gate, I pulled myself up, climbed halfway, then a voice stopped me. "Don't move." I turned. One of them had me in his sights. The same guy who used to run jobs with us years ago. His face was older, colder. "Should have known it'd end like this," he said. "Yeah," I rasped. "Me too." He hesitated just long enough. Long enough for me to pull the last card I had left, the small remote in my pocket. I'd wired the place before I came in. A can of gasoline. A fuse. Simple. Ugly. Final. "You think you're walking away?" I asked. His eyes widened. "What did you?" The explosion cut him off. The building went up like thunder, heat washing over me, flames painting the sky orange. I fell backward onto the wet pavement, coughing, watching the warehouse burn. For the first time in years, it was quiet. No sirens, no shouting, just the rain and the fire. I didn't remember passing out. When I woke, I was in a hospital bed. White walls, for in my arm, my leg wrapped tight, the sound of beeping machines. For a moment, I thought maybe it was over. Then I saw her sitting by the bed, bandaged but alive. "You're lucky," she said softly. "They found you a mile from the blast. You shouldn't even be here." I smiled weakly. "I thought you didn't want me here." She looked away. "You blew up half the block. You think I wanted to see that on the news?" I tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. "Guess I always do too much." She reached for my hand. "You didn't have to do this." "I did," I said. "Now they can't hurt you. Or him." "What about you?" I looked at her, at the sunlight creeping through the blinds. "I'll live, just not the same way." She squeezed my hand, eyes shining. "Then start over." Start over. 2 words that sounded easy when you still had pieces left. A week later, they moved me out under a new name. Some deal she worked out through a friend, witness protection, they called it. But I wasn't a witness. I was a ghost. They sent me far, small town near the mountains. I got a job fixing cars at a garage run by an old vet who didn't ask questions. The work was quiet, steady. My shoulder still ached, leg too. But the noise in my head, it faded, bit by bit. Sometimes, when the sun hit the horizon just right, I'd close my eyes and see the block again. The kids, the corners, the nights that never ended. I'd think about the people I lost, the ones who didn't get out, the ones I couldn't save. And then I'd think about her, how she walked again, how she sent one letter, no return address, just 5 words, "You did what you had to." I keep that letter in my jacket pocket. It's folded and worn, like the rest of me. Some nights I take it out, read it by the window, and tell myself maybe she's right. Maybe I did. But the truth is, the streets don't let you go. They just let you fade. Every sound outside still makes me look over my shoulder. Every shadow feels like the past catching up. And sometimes, when the wind hits just right, I swear I can hear him, the one I left behind, laughing in the distance. Not angry, not bitter, just a reminder that nothing ever really ends. I used to think redemption was about forgiveness, but it's not. It's about what you're willing to lose to make peace with yourself. Me, I lost everything, and somehow that's what saved me. The winters hit harder out here. Not the kind of cold that cuts through your skin, but the kind that settles in your bones and stays. Out in the mountains, the wind carries silence. It's not like the city. No sirens, no shouting, no distant music from passing cars. Just the sound of life trying to remember itself. It's been 8 months since the fire. My legs still stiff in the mornings, but I've learned to walk without the limp giving me away. The garage stays busy. People here still believe in fixing things instead of replacing them. I guess that's why I fit in. Every day starts the same. Coffee before dawn, the hum of the heater, the smell of oil and rust. I keep the radio on low, old blues playing under the sound of tools and engines. The boss, an old vet named Harris, doesn't talk much. Neither do I, but there's a kind of peace in that silence. Two men working through ghosts in their own way. He doesn't know my real name. Out here, nobody does. They call me Jay. Feels strange, light, almost like it belongs to someone else. But that's the point. Sometimes, when the nights get long, I drive up the old road that winds above town. There's a spot up there, a lookout. You can see the valley lights stretch like fallen stars. I sit on the hood, light a cigarette I never finish, and just watch. The first time I went, I brought the letter with me. The one she wrote. It's creased now, the ink fading. I've read it so many times, I don't even need to unfold it anymore. The words live somewhere inside me. You did what you had to. At first, I thought it was forgiveness. Now I think it was something else. Maybe her way of saying goodbye without saying it. I still check the news sometimes. No mention of her, no mention of me. The fire erased more than I expected. The organization gone. The survivors disappeared. The city moved on, same as it always does. The block I grew up on got paved over, new stores, new signs, new faces. History rewritten in glass and concrete. But ghosts don't care about gentrification. They find you anyway. Started a few weeks back, small things. A black SUV parked too long near the garage. A man at the diner who didn't order food, just coffee, eyes on the door. I told myself I was imagining it. That paranoia was just part of the past I couldn't shake. But then I found the note, tucked under my windshield. No name.
No signature.
Just 3 words. We remember you. For a second, I almost laughed. After everything, the fire, the names I buried, the blood I spilled, it still wasn't enough. The streets had a long memory, longer than I thought. That night, I packed a bag. Old habit, just in case. But I didn't leave. Not this time. Maybe I was tired of running, or maybe I just wanted to see how it played out. The next day, Harris closed up early. He looked at me different. Not suspicious, more like he knew something I didn't. You ever think about going back? He asked. Back where? Wherever you came from. I shook my head. There's nothing there. He nodded slow. Then make something here. Otherwise, you'll just keep fixing what's already broken. That night, I sat in my small rented room and thought about what he said. I'd spent so long trying to fix things, people, situations, myself, that I never stopped to ask if they were meant to stay broken. The next morning, I drove out early. Not to run, to face it. The SUV was there again, parked across from the gas station. 2 men inside. They looked out of place, suits too clean, hands too still. I pulled over a few spaces away, stepped out slow. They noticed. One of them reached into his jacket, but I raised a hand. Relax, I said. If you came to finish it, let's talk first. The driver opened his door, stepped out. He was older, maybe mid-40s, eyes cold but not cruel. You really don't know when to disappear? Do you? Guess not. He studied me a moment, then nodded toward the mountains. We lost a lot of good people because of you. Good people? I said. They were dealers, killers. Same as me. Maybe once. But they had families. People who depended on them. You burned everything. Everything was already burning. For a moment, no one said anything. The wind carried the smell of fuel from the station, the faint sound of some country song on the radio. Finally, he sighed. You're lucky, you know that? There's people who wanted your head on a spike. But I convinced them otherwise. Why? Because someone higher up said to leave you be. That made me pause. Who? He didn't answer, just gave a small smile. You must have made an impression. He got back in the SUV, rolled down the window. Word of advice, stop looking back. You'll run out of road. Then they drove off. I stood there for a long time watching the dust trail fade. My reflection in the station window looked older, harder. A man who'd survived his own story but didn't know what came after. When I got back to the garage, Harris was cleaning tools. Everything good? He asked.
Yeah, elite.
That night, I couldn't sleep. The words kept circling. Someone higher up said to leave you be. There weren't many people who could make that call. Only one, maybe. I found a payphone near the diner, one of the last still standing. Slipped in a few coins, dialed the number from memory, the one she used years ago. It rang once, twice, then a voice answered. Not hers. A man. Hello. I didn't say anything. Who's this? Silence. He sighed. If this is who I think it is, she doesn't want contact. Let her live, man. She earned that. Click. The dial tone echoed in my ear. I hung up, walked outside, stood under the flickering light of the street lamp. Somewhere out there, she was alive. Maybe safe. Maybe happy. Maybe even free of me. That should have been enough. But freedom's funny like that. It's not peace, it's just absence. And absence doesn't heal. It lingers. Days turned into weeks. The snow came early that year, blanketing the town in white silence. I worked through most of the holidays, fixing busted engines for people trying to get home. Harris invited me over once for dinner, said no one should eat alone on Christmas. I went, sat across from him, his wife, their grandkid. The laughter, the warmth, it felt foreign. Beautiful, but foreign. Later that night, I walked home through the snow, looked up at the stars, sharp and bright against the black sky. I hadn't prayed in years, but something in me whispered anyway. Not words, just a thought, a hope that maybe all the things I'd done meant something in the end. When I got back to my room, there was a letter slipped under the door. No return address, same handwriting, same faded ink. It said only this: you're free now, don't waste it. I sat there for a long time, staring at those words. Then I folded the paper, placed it beside the first letter in my jacket. The next morning, I told Harris I was leaving. He didn't ask where, just shook my hand, said, find something worth keeping. So I did. I drove west, following the sun until the mountains faded and the ocean showed up like a miracle. The air smelled like salt and rain. Waves crashed against the rocks, loud enough to drown out everything else. I found a small town by the water, rented a place above a bait shop, fixed boats instead of cars. The work's different, but the rhythm's the same. Hands, metal, silence. Sometimes kids come by asking about the scars, about the limp. I tell them I used to live another life. They always laugh like it's a joke. Maybe it is. Keep my head down, pay in cash, live small. But every sunset, when the sky turns gold and the water mirrors fire, I sit on the pier and watch it fade. The gulls circle, the waves breathe, and for the first time in my life, I don't feel like I owe the world anything. There's peace in that. Not happiness, not the kind movies sell you. Just quiet. Enough to breathe. Enough to live. I still carry the letters. Still think about the block, the noise, the brothers who never made it out. Sometimes, I talk to them like they can hear me. Tell them I'm sorry. Tell them I tried. Maybe that's all redemption really is, trying even when it's too late. A few nights ago, I saw a story on the local news. A foundation starting up back in the city, helping kids from the same neighborhood I came from. The woman running it didn't show her face. But the voice, I knew it. They called her the one who stayed. I smiled, turned off the TV, stepped out onto the balcony. The ocean wind hit my face, cold and clean. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was running. I looked up at the stars, the same ones that used to watch me from the alleys, the same ones that never turned away. Guess we made it, I said quietly. The tide rolled in, swallowing my words. And just like that, the story that started on the streets, with blood, betrayal, and fire, ended with silence, salt, and sky. I don't know if that's peace, but it's enough.